Welcome to KetoMealsAndRecipes.com. Today's video will show you the step-by-step process to make my keto chocolate layer cake with mint ice cream. This is a multi-layered torte with no machine soft serve ice cream. I'm going to share this particular cake recipe because it's a family favorite, and this year we're going to make it for St. Patrick's Day. But I have to admit, I actually do make this one because, as I said, it is a family favorite. In fact, one of my sons requested this particular cake for his birthday because he loves the mint chip ice cream and he really likes my chocolate cake. So he asked me to combine the two flavors together, and this is what came out. Although this is a very easy cake to make, I would request that you please watch the entire video because this is not only a recipe demonstration, but more importantly, it's a how to make tutorial in which I share additional tips while I'm making the different sections. The macronutrient ratio for the chocolate layered cake with mint ice cream is 5.3 to 1, with 6.5 grams of total carbs, 1.3 grams of soluble fiber, 0.8 grams of insoluble fiber, resulting in 4.4 grams of net carbs per very generous serving. To make it easier to follow my directions, I have divided this recipe into three major sections. So the first section, I'm going to make the sheet pan cake. Begin by preheating your oven to 180 degrees Celsius or 360 degrees Fahrenheit. And place a sheet of parchment on top of a full-size baking sheet. I'd suggest that you also crease to make the edges fit very snugly. Now, for the cake batter itself, begin by separating the eggs. Place the yolks into a mixing bowl and put the egg whites into a second mixing bowl or your stand mixer bowl. Here's a little hint. To enhance the chocolate flavor, pour the room temperature coffee into a bowl or large measuring cup. The coffee really helps to bring out the chocolate flavor. And to the coffee, add the Dutch processed cocoa powder and then stir very well to remove all the lumps. It's really important that this is very smooth. Once you've done that, pour the chocolate coffee mixture into the bowl with the egg yolks and stir until thoroughly combined. I'd also like to mention that I prefer to use Dutch chocolate or cocoa because it's not as bitter as regular cocoa, but you can use whichever one you prefer. By the way, if you do like my videos, please support my channel by subscribing, giving this video a thumbs up, and forward the link to a friend. Or if you have previously subscribed, please check to make sure that you are still subscribed because a lot of people are mentioning that they have been unsubscribed. There's been a lot of stuff going on YouTube and a lot of updates, so please do check to make sure you're subscribed and turn on your notification bell. Okay, back to business. Because of clumping, I always aerate all my nut flours and seed flours by passing all the dry ingredients through a fine mesh sieve. In a separate bowl, sift all the dry ingredients. I add my fine almond flour, finely ground salt, my gluten-free baking powder, and the sweetener which I ground to a confectioner powder. Then either using your hand or a spatula, stir and press until all the ingredients have gone through the sieve. And after you've sifted everything, stir to combine all the ingredients together and set this bowl aside for a moment. Next, to your mixing bowl with the egg whites, add your lemon juice, or you could substitute the lemon juice with plain white vinegar. Then either with your hand mixer or stand mixer, whisk the egg whites to a stiff peak stage. Having done that, I'm going to use some of the egg whites to loosen the egg yolk mixture. So I ladle about 1/4 of the whipped egg whites into the bowl with the chocolate egg yolk mixture and whisk everything together very vigorously until well combined. You'll notice that the batter is runnier and easier to stir at this point. This is what you want. Now there's two ways to do the next part. You can either add all the dry ingredients to this bowl and stir well to combine. You want a very nice smooth texture. Another way to make the batter is to pour some of the chocolate mixture into the egg whites. Using your balloon whisk or thin spatula, stir and fold gently, and then add about half of the sifted dry ingredients, and then repeat with more of the chocolate mixture and the rest of the dry ingredients. So please be very gentle when you're folding and combining these ingredients. You don't want to burst the bubbles in the egg whites, or else your cake will be very flat. So take your time and just do it slowly and gently. And that's all there is to making the cake batter. So it's time to pour your batter onto the parchment lined baking sheet and spread so that it covers the entire surface, and either guide it with your spatula or tip the pan so that the batter fills in the corners very well and the thickness over the entire surface is even. Now drop the sheet pan gently onto your counter. This will remove large air bubbles in the batter and even out the thickness. This cake is now ready to be baked, so place the sheet pan into the middle position of your preheated oven and set your timer for 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, when your timer goes off, first test the cake using a toothpick. You want to ensure that the cake is done. It should be, but test just in case. Remove the sheet pan from the oven and let the cake rest in the pan for about 10 minutes. Then when the cake is cooled, I'm going to flip the cake. So here's how I do it. I first place a sheet of parchment on top of the cake, and then using my wire rack, which I place on top of the parchment, I take a hold of the pan and the wire rack and very quickly in one smooth motion flip the cake. And of course peel off the parchment that was under the cake and set aside, and then leave the cake on the wire rack to rest. During which time we're going to do step 2, and that's to make the soft serve no machine ice cream. For this step you will have to pre-make my sugar-free sweetened condensed milk. You can either do it before you start the batter or the day before. And if you want a more detailed explanation of how to make my soft serve ice cream, I'll post the link to that video in the description below, but here's a quick recap. Pour your chilled whipped cream into a large mixing bowl or stand mixer bowl. To this whipped cream, because we're making a mint flavor, I'm going to use mint extract, or you can use a very good quality food grade mint oil. That's up to you. Whip the cream to a soft peak stage, but do not over whip. When your whipped cream is at this stage, pour the room temperature sugar-free sweetened condensed milk into your whipped cream, and then whip at medium speed until combined. Again, I cannot stress, do not over whip, because if you do over whip, you'll find that the fats in the cream will curdle and it will come out like a butter. That's not what you want. You want a soft, fluffy cream. It is time to add the optional green gel food color. I'm using Wilton Kelly Green. You don't have to add the food color, but I like to add the color because it enhances how beautiful this cake looks. And as I said, I'm making it for St. Patrick's Day. Speaking of St. Patrick's Day, and I'd kindly ask you to watch to the end where I'm going to share some of my other St. Patrick's Day recipes, the ones I've posted in previous years. I'd really like to know, if you celebrate St. Patrick's Day, how do you celebrate? Any special recipes or drinks? And if St. Patrick's Day is not your holiday, then please tell me what holiday you celebrate so that I can make a special occasion recipe for that holiday. I'd also like to mention that any video I mention, such as the sugar-free sweetened condensed milk or the soft serve ice cream, as well as the link for the written recipe for this cake, are all posted in the description below. So please go down there and check them out. In this video, I'm showing you that I've chopped up a 100% chocolate Lind bar and added it to my ice cream for a mint chip ice cream. And that's because my son loves the mint chip ice cream. I, however, prefer it without the chips inside. So you have two options, with or without mint chips. We're not quite ready to use the ice cream. And then cover the bowl with a lid or cling wrap and put this soft serve ice cream into your refrigerator, because you will need it a little bit later to assemble the final cake. We have completed 2 steps, and now for the third and last step. We're going to make the chocolate glaze, or as some people call it, chocolate ganache. Making the chocolate glaze is really easy. All you have to do is add the following ingredients into a mixing bowl, and the mixing bowl should be large enough so just the bottom fits over a small double boiler pot. Okay, to the bowl, add the unsalted butter, the unsweetened pure baking chocolate, a bit of coffee powder, and the sweetener, which I ground to a fine confectioner powder. The heavy whipping cream. Place the bowl over the pot, which has about a 1 inch or 2.5 centimeter amount of simmering water. I know that some people would do this in the microwave, but I really do prefer doing it in the double boiler or bain-marie method. I find that doing this way, I never burn my chocolate mixture. If you're doing it on the stovetop, cook over medium-low heat until the chocolate and the sweetener have melted, and if you dip your finger in, and rub the chocolate between 2 fingers, it feels smooth and there's no grittiness. If it's still gritty, keep cooking for a little bit, but stir as it's cooking. When this chocolate mixture doesn't feel gritty anymore, remove the bowl from the pot and set it aside on your counter to cool a bit. The chocolate cools quite quickly, and 5 or 10 minutes after you've taken it off the stovetop, add your mint extract and your cocoa powder. And then set aside so that the chocolate can get to room temperature. You will also notice that the chocolate will thicken up as it cools. Now that all 3 parts of my cake are done, it's time to assemble the cake. Begin by first cutting the sheet pancake, dividing it into 2 equal rectangles. For best results, please try to be precise and measure the cake so that each section is exactly equal. Now it's time to get the soft serve mint ice cream and spread it over one of the 2 cut sections. And use your offset spatula to make sure that it comes right to the edges and that the layer is as even as you possibly can make it. This is really important so that the cake is not lumpy. Do take your time to level this layer as much as you can. And once you've distributed your ice cream as evenly as you can, use a bench scraper to level off to make a very smooth and even layer. Now it's time to place that other piece of the rectangle on top of the ice cream layer. Then place your hands flat on the cake and press gently on the surface to make the ice cream come to the very edges. And after pressing, if some of the ice cream does come out, just use an offset spatula and scrape all around the cake. And some of the ice cream that I scrape off the edges, I use to fill in the corners because I often find the corners don't have enough of the ice cream. Now for the ganache. To make it easier to distribute the ganache, I pour it into a piping bag where I have snipped off a very small hole, not too big, because you want to be able to control the chocolate glaze. You want to keep all the chocolate within the cake and not dripping down. So with your piping bag, first make a perimeter around the cake, and with the remaining chocolate glaze, then squeeze out about 3/4 of this glaze on the inside of the perimeter you just made. And then using an offset spatula, spread out and smooth this chocolate glaze or ganache. And because this is a multi-layer cake, make sure that this ganache comes right to the edges and that the chocolate layer is as even as you can make it. And now it's time to cut this rectangle, which is a half slab at this point, into 2 more equal halves. Then using a large spatula, place the 1 layer on top of the first glazed slab. And when you're positioning it, please match the edges and the corners very precisely. The cake doesn't move very easily after you've placed it on top. At this point, we're almost done, so distribute the rest of your chocolate glaze on top of the cake and spread out with an offset spatula. I like to have a really smooth surface, so I'm going to use my bench scraper and gently glide it over the chocolate to make it as smooth as I possibly can. Because I'm going to use this for a special occasion, I'm going to trim the edges of the cake. You'll notice that I'm trimming the cake as thinly as I can so that I have minimal loss of the cake. And of course, the cut edges are a baker's bonus, which you can now enjoy as your preview. Although it's obvious that there are a few distinct steps, I do think that each step is quite easy if you follow along. Once you've assembled your cake, you've trimmed it, and you're happy with it, transfer the uncovered cake into your refrigerator for at least 1 hour or even overnight. You want the cake to set properly. Then, before serving, remove the cake from the refrigerator and cut it in half lengthwise, and then cut each length into 7 or 8 pieces. I like thicker pieces, so I'm going to do 7 with pieces, and that's how I get 14. Because of all the layers and the ice cream, you don't need very large slices. You'll find this cake very satisfying and filling after serving. And here's a couple last tips. Refrigerate the rest of the cake. And if you're not using the entire cake right away, it can be frozen. It thaws beautifully in your fridge and tastes amazing. I hope that you and your family and friends will enjoy this cake. Thank you very much for watching my video. Going forward, I would like to make videos you, my audience, would like most. So please leave me a comment and do let me know what you would like me to make. I love delicious desserts, but what would you like to see for day-to-day breakfast, lunch, or dinner recipes? All your suggestions are greatly appreciated. And please come back when I post my next video. Until then, have a very happy and healthy day. Cheers!